Welcome back, Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics/Non-Classics. This is episode number 252 and Doubleshot number 183. We got two Batman trades for you, okay? First up, Batman Eternal, Volume 3. Now, some of you are wondering, why am I starting Volume 3 instead of Volume 1? Because the library didn't have the first two volumes, so I started with this. Go figure. This book collects issues 35 to 52 of this weekly series. This was actually one of 3 weekly series. Now, those of you who were not regularly reading comic books and just got the comics like last year or two, and if you missed out on this series, you should read it. It's a really good series. It has some stuff here and there, and some artwork to make it inconsistent, but the covers in this book are all done by Jay Lee. Now, this series was launched as part of celebration for Batman's 75th anniversary, along with basically a logo and a short and a at least one trade like Batman's 75th anniversary. Now, since it's all about Batman, you can showcase some of his famous bad guys. Not only ones that, with the exception of the Joker, pretty much a good majority of them do show up in the comic who did show in the Batman animated series, including some that were never featured outside the comics before. Well, this is what, if you're wondering why, Killer Croc looks like he's so gray, well, if you're wondering what he looks like in the comics, he looks like this. This is his normal skin color, green. Yeah, that's one of the pages I have down here, thank you. You also see this page. It's not very good looking page, but I wanted to point out this character. This guy right here. That guy is Signal Man, a C-list villain. Now, a lot of people are, when you read the story, a lot of people are on the mistaken fact that it's one of the A-list villains responsible for what's going on during the story. When actually, it's when they ignore the C-list villains because they're not very well known. And here, if you wonder what Firefly looks like in the comics, well, in this universe, he looks like this. And it's not Garfield Lenz, it's a completely different character. It's the second person who helped the title. I don't remember his name. But it's not Garfield Lenz's continuity. He got killed off in the Nightwing Annual. And that was the first time they brought in Firefly into his continuity. But they had Garfield Lenz. They had him get killed off and replaced it with another guy we've never heard of before. So technically we have Firefly. And here's Clayface. Yep, Clayface. But there's a couple more I should show you. Alright. First, this guy here. See this C-lister? Yeah, he's a C-lister. This is the Clue Master. He's the father of a well-known superhero in DC Comics. He's the father of Stephanie Brown, a.k.a. Spoiler, a.k.a. Robin, a.k.a. Batgirl. But in this continuity, she's only known as Spoiler. And plus, you get a nice, little page of, Hush. Yeah, this guy here, that is Hush. His real name is Thomas Elliott. And he appeared in at least 2 of the Arkham video games. He appeared in the second one. I think he appeared in Arkham. I don't remember he did. I know Firefly did. I would recommend reading the story to introduce this very character. It's called Batman Hush. It's written by Jeff Loeb, and the artwork is done by DC's co-publisher Jim Lee. It's an awesome story, and I highly recommend it. You see, when Scott Snyder brought this guy into continuity, he basically saying, now, it is true that particular story did happen, but it's slightly altered. But it did happen. It's one of the few characters he brought into the series that was featured in previous continuity. And also, I should also mention, in this very story, despite the fact Clue Master is introduced in issue 3, he gets killed off in the penultimate issue. He only appears in this series. He doesn't appear anyplace else. I mean, if DC would give him an ongoing series, maybe they can explore his backstory. Now, in the comics, they still keep the fact that he is divorced. Now, in case you're wondering, did he look like this in pre-Flashpoint? Did he wear this outfit? Yes, he did. It's slightly altered, but it's the same outfit he wore in pre-Flashpoint. And at one time he was a member of the Justice League, which at the time the original version of the publication wanted to appear in the Justice League International, a group of C-listers, and these guys also were the Suicide Squad of the early 2000s, and they got killed off in the first issue, but he survived. I'm that person. Mm-hmm. And the person behind everything. The guy who became the villain of the Court of Owls storyline. This is Lincoln March, a.k.a. Evil Talon. That's why I call him Evil Talon. Yeah, he has probably the weirdest Talon outfit I have ever seen. And he does return for one particular story after this one. He returns for Robin War, which is a story that lasts for a whole month. Now, it's interesting, though, that he is the main villain of this particular storyline, the whole Batman Eternal Weekly series. Now, it was kind of hinted at somewhat. There were seeds planned out this whole story. If you read the all 52 issues, which I do personally own, you can see that he is the one behind everything. Because, I mean, yes, Clue Master was the one who sent out the invitations, but Clue Master was asked to send us invitations by Lincoln March, the guy who claimed to be Thomas Wayne Jr., a.k.a. Bruce Wayne's brother. And my favorite scene in this whole comic is in issue 52. We have this awesome splash page of the Batman family. And who we have in this picture? We have Red Robin, Batgirl, Red Hood, Batwoman, Batwing, that's Luke Fox, he showed up in Batman Bad Blood, Harper Row, a.k.a. Bluebird, this guy over here in the corner, the guy who had pretty much not appeared for a whole year at this point. This issue came out a year ago. That is Calvin Rose. He was a new character introduced a couple years ago, and he's an awesome character. But DC canned his book after 17 issues replaced with this series. We also have, spoiler, yes, this is Stephanie Brown. The woman to her left, that is Katana. And of course we have, you can't barely see her. You can barely see her because of the way this book is structured. But you also have, way in the background, you have Black Canary. Even though technically she's not a Batman character, but for some reason the writers of the Bat books think she's a Batman character because she's associated with the Birds of Prey. That's the only reason why. Okay? Yeah. Plus you have Batman on the ground, obviously. And Jim Gordon firmly in the middle. Now he's the one. Now he was the focal point at the start of the storyline for this weekly series. Now, pretty much there was a bunch of different subplots, but the one subplot that ran through all 52 issues is figure out who was behind all of this, like who was the mastermind. That question, that story, that was the main storyline. Who was behind all this? Roz appeared in here as well. It was said that he could have been behind this. I mean, it would make sense, but he's recuperating. And here's something interesting about that, about his appearance in here. It takes place at this point in the storyline. It takes place just after Robin rises Omega. Yeah. That particular storyline from Batman and Robin. So you have a tie to Batman and Robin in this very storyline. Now, in case you're wondering why this Batgirl looked the way she does, simple. She got a new creative team, so they decided to change her costume. Now, at the start of the storyline, she was wearing the costume that the artist who was the first artist of the book when Gail Simone was writing the book. So they decided to change her costume. Like if you're reading all 52 issues and don't read any of their Bat books, and you're probably thinking, though, why does Batgirl change her costume? Simple. You gotta read the Batgirl book to understand that. But this book is awesome. It's a good storyline. It was a great way to celebrate Batman's 75th anniversary because it's Batman and its villains show up in the book too. Even some obscure villains like Signal Man And of course, now Cluemaster is not technically an obscure villain because he was featured very heavily thanks to Chuck Dixon bringing him back in the late 90s when he brought in his daughter. Oh, and something interesting though, they also keep the fact that he's divorced. Yes. And because of Cluemaster, now Cluemaster is killed off in the Pendulum issue by Lincoln March. He gets killed off by having his throat slit. Now, you don't see any blood spilled over the place, but he does have his throat slit. You can tell that by looking at the panel when you read it in here. So, and of course, at the end of the story, you have Crystal Brown, Stephanie's mother, and who, of course, is Arthur Brown. That's Cluemaster's real name. She leaves town, thus leaving Stephanie Brown kind of on her own. So, what does she do? She moves in with Harper and Colin Rowe. Harper and Colin Rowe are brother and sister. Now, this was a nice showcase for every single Batman character who was being featured in the comics at this point in time. Katana, I question why the heck she was featured in here, even though technically she is not a Batman character, even though she was created by a known Batman writer. Well, known Batman writer and artist, but it just seems odd. I think maybe the only reason why she's featured in here is because she was part of the Outsiders. That's the only reason why I can think of, and she's wearing her new 52 outfit. But if you read the Suicide Squad Most Wanted Deadshot / Katana, at the halfway point of the series, she gets rid of that costume and switches to her outfit she wears in the Suicide Squad film, which is coming out in a few months. Now, like I said, this is really good. I do recommend this, but I do recommend also you pick up the first 2 trades and this. And if you don't want to pick up the trades, pick up the individual issues. Now, here's something interesting about the individual issues. With the exception of the last issue, the first 51 issues are all $2.99. Really cheap. Now, the main writers of this series is Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV, but there are other writers. People like, at this point, it's Tim Seeley, who was the writer of Grayson at the point. Kyle Higgins, who was writing Grayson, and he was also writing at this point in time when this book came out. He was writing the Batman Beyond digital comic. Though now you actually can, if you want to read a book with his writer on it, read Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, published by Boom Studios. He's the writer of that book, and Ray Fox, who was Right, separate books. Now, at the end of this thing, it does have some stuff in the Batman books. I mean, does this thing lead into Endgame? Kind of, in a way, because the Endgame takes place after this particular storyline. Though it does lead some stuff to what goes on in Catwoman and helps sets up the Gotham at Midnight series. There was one small problem. At the end of the series, Batwing is offered to join the Midnight Shift, which is the main team for the Gotham at Midnight series. Okay. Now, if you read all 12 issues of that series, Batwing doesn't show up anywhere in that series. My guess is the editor must not get the memo from the series that he was offered to join the team. But what did Batwing do after the storyline? He became a supporting character in Batgirl, and became her boyfriend. Though before this most recent volume ended for Batgirl, they did officially break up. And here's the thing. I agree with Joshua Hayes on this. The relationship was forced. And I'm not sure what the people who were behind Batgirl thinking about putting these two together. I mean, yes, I don't mind these two being partners, but an actual couple? It's weird. And by the way, at no point prior to that particular issue coming out does, in fact, Luke Fox is even hinted that he's attracted to Barbara Gordon. Yeah. But despite that, that's what comes after this particular storyline. Now, I do have one criticism of this particular storyline. After the storyline, Stephanie Brown is not featured in any comic again until she shows up in pages of Catwoman. As for Harper Row, she disappears for a long time. She doesn't reappear until she pops up in the next book I'm going to talk about soon. The next book I'm going to review right now. She pops up in there, and I keep thinking, where the heck has she been? And yes, I know she has a Batgirl as well as a supporting character in there. But it's like, what's the whole point? I mean, you downgrade a good character and you force feed another character some people probably don't care about. But this is still a good storyline, despite its many subplots. And I give this book a 9 out of 10. But I do recommend getting the first 2 trades and this one, so you have a pretty good idea of what's going on. Next up, Batman and Robin Eternal. Now, this book was released. Now, this is the book Harper wrote next period after Batman Eternal. This book was released as part of the 75th anniversary of Robin. And also, last year, as part of the 75th anniversary of Robin, they ended Batman and Robin, that ongoing series, replaced it with Robin Son of Batman, which is the main series for Damian Wayne. As for the other Robins, Dick Grayson in issue 12 revealed that he was actually alive, which is kind of referenced in here. He revealed to everybody he was alive. Jason Todd got a new series, team-up series with Arsenal, which is okay. Well, it's better than Red Hood and the Outlaws, though the series is going to end next month. As for Tim, he got nothing for him. It's like Tim gets the most disrespect of all the Robins. Yeah, it's like they relaunched Red Hood series. They give Damian his own ongoing series. They have Dick reunite with the family, with the exception of Batman after the events of Endgame. But what does Tim do? Absolutely nothing. Yes, and what does Robin also get besides also go along with this? Last year DC released a Robin 75th anniversary trade. It's a really thick trade. Now, this series was also released as part of this series. You can actually say this is actually sort of an apology for Batman Eternal for some way. Now, there's 2 things you can praise about the series. First, it's only 26 issues long. Second, there's only 2 storylines. The whole book. You have the past stuff and the present stuff. That's why the book is like sliced like this. And you get a lot of character development for a lot of the characters. Pretty much, if you read this entire book, most of the characters who appear in this book do get a lot of character development in this over the course of these 26 issues. Now, unlike that series, when introduced a bunch of characters into this continuity, this one didn't introduce that much. I mean, with the first issue, you bring in Cassandra Cain. I should also mention this book collects the first 12 of the 16 issues and the sneak peek. Now, if you wonder what Cassandra Cain looks like in the current continuity, those of you who don't read the current comics, this is what she looks like. And also, they also bring in David Cain, who's her father. He's orphan. And they bring in another character that, unlike Cassandra Cain, by that point last year, it had been 4 years. But my biggest surprise, I had heard Cassandra Cain was appearing in this series, but my biggest surprise was seeing, let's see if I can get to the character. Let's see here, where is he? Yeah, it was part of a side story with Red Robin and Jason Todd. In issue 9, we see the return of a character that everybody knew was been dead for, at that point, for 12 years. We see the return of Azrael. Yes, Josh Hayes, if you could check out his channel, he actually predicted this. He predicted that he would show up in the series, and he was right. Now, for his outfit, it looks very similar to the Joe Quesada outfit Joe Quesada designed for him back in the original miniseries. Now, it's great to see him. Otherwise, though, at this point, there is no other new characters they bring into the continuity. Just Azrael, Cassandra Cain, and David Cain. That's it. Plus, you also get a chance to see in issue 3, get a chance to see Batgirl. And unlike in Batman Eternal, she's not very much involved in the series. Same thing with Robo-Batman, Jim Gordon. He only appears for the opening issue of this trade, and he just doesn't appear again. Now, in the series, he disappeared to like the final couple issues. Batgirl, same thing with her. She disappeared toward the end of the series. The We Are Robin gang shows up in here too. Okay, that's interesting. Now, here's the thing. The main villain of the storyline is this character right here. She's called Mother. Now, later on in the series, they do give an origin story for her, but she's the main villain of the storyline. Unlike Batman Eternal, which had a question mark of exactly who was the villain of this whole entire storyline, this one kind of revealed it very early on. Now, it's not exactly original for a woman to be mastermind a particular storyline. Not original, but this book is written so well. Now, she is a brand spanking new character, very original to the series, and like Dick Grayson, she appears for pretty much almost every single issue of the whole series. Now, Dick himself, out of the 26 issues, he only misses 2 issues, but he appears in pretty much a good chunk of it. But the only characters you see throughout a majority of the series is Dick, Jason, Tim, Harper, and Cassandra. That's it. Stephanie shows up for the first 2 issues, then she just drops off, and she doesn't return to the end of the series. I mean, there's a few criticisms you can right there, like you have a character, you bring back Stephanie Brown, a character who was at this point featured just in Catwoman of all places. By the way, it's a good series. Now this series is written by, the main story is written by Scott Snyder and Jameson IV, but the script, the other writers for the storyline are Tim Seeley, who was writing Grayson, Steve Orlando, who was writing Midnighter. He does show up later in the series. Giovanni Valentine, who was the writer of Catwoman at this point, Jason Lanzing, Colin Kelly, and Ed Bronson. Now, interesting thing. Now, I had heard the artist in here, Tony S. Dan, I actually heard that he was going to do just a small handful of issues. He does the opening few issues of the storyline. Now, unlike Batman Eternal, which had consistent writing, one of his biggest criticism was that it had inconsistent artwork. The artwork was not consistent. In this one, they made up for that by having the artwork consistent for 26 issues. This book just 12. Now, as with the other stuff DC was launching, they decided to have a sneak peek. But instead of putting it in part of the Convergent books, they put it as part of a reprint for the first issue of Endgame. So, for Batman Day, there was this one shot called Batman Endgame, where the book pretty much reprinted the first issue of Batman Endgame, which is issue 35. However, there was a backup story in that very issue, which this book does reprint. Basically set up for this particular storyline. Now, there's stuff set in the past, and now Mother is the main antagonist of both storylines in the series. But the main focal point of the flashbacks is Scarecrow. And Scarecrow is revealed in this very series and in this very continuity that the first Batman villain Dick Grayson ever fought as Robin was Scarecrow. That is very interesting. I do like that very much. Now, some of you are thinking, why in the world does this book have the sticker logo? Because this book came out before the revelation, before they DC unveiled the new logo. But for right now, you probably have to deal with it if you pick it up. Also, one thing I got to mention is the spines are very much different between the two books. This right here, this is the spine for Batman Eternal. Now, this is the spine they use for a lot of the New 52 trades. The current spine they use, and as far as I know, this is still not changed yet, this is the current spine for the book. It's very grayish in a way. Here we go. And it has the picture of the main focal character of the thing, Dick Grayson. Now, I do like that. The fact, it's kind of like movies, they do this too, like mainly VHS tapes and a little bit with DVDs. They put, even books do this as well. The novels are doing this lately too, where they take a picture, they put a picture on the spine of the book, which I gotta praise them for doing that. Now, this book, I do have one criticism for this trade. It has one variant cover. I would have thought with the 75th anniversary of Robin, you would see a bunch of variant covers. You never got one. And as a matter of fact, Robin was one of several characters last year who had 75th anniversaries. They had it for Flash. They gave him variant covers in graphic novels. They did the same thing with the Joker. Catwoman had 7th anniversary last year as well. All they gave her was a trade. Now the Joker one now there was one cover for Joker's variant month. Basically, they received a lot of criticism, and that was for the Batgirl cover, which was recalled because a bunch of jerks didn't like the cover. Despite the fact a lot of people liked that cover, the cover was later recalled. But yeah, this book was launched last year. The book only wrapped up just 2 months ago. Yeah, that's one thing interesting about this. This is a recent series that just wrapped up. Now, the issues collected here are just from the first 3 months of the storyline. That's one thing good about this, is that the storyline's only around for 6 months, not a year. And also, the one thing people, one of their criticisms besides inconsistent artwork for Batman Eternal, is that it had too many storylines going on. This one fixed that problem. So we have consistent artwork, we have not many storylines, only 2 of them, maybe 3 if you count the Azrael stuff, which that gets out there pretty quickly as well. And of course, you have a central focused character, which in the case of this series, despite the fact it's called Batman and Robin Eternal, the heavy focused character is Dick Grayson. Batman Eternal, it's Batman. And of course, his villains and a bunch of other characters. Now, you have Jace, you have the other Robins, and along with Harper as supporting characters. But Tim is the only one who does not receive character development. The only characters who receive character development by the time this series is over is Dick, Harper, and Cassandra Cain. That's it. They're the only characters who receive character development by the time the series is over. I mean, you do see a little bit of development for Jason Todd and Tim Drake, but as everybody else, nope. Nobody gets character development. But this is still good. Let me show off some artwork in here. Now, I believe the artwork I'm showing you, I think it's from a 20th Daniel issue. Let me check that. No, it's the artwork I'm showing you. It was from a few different artists. It wasn't 20th Daniel artwork. 20th Daniel did do the opening issue of the series. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, here it is. This is Tony S. Daniel's artwork. Yeah, the guy is a good artist, and I am going to enjoy seeing his artwork on Justice League. As for the rest of these writers, well, Scott Snyder is going to All-Star Batman, Tinnief is going to Detective. As for the rest of these writers, well, Steve Orlando is doing Supergirl, which I'm looking forward to that as well. But as for the rest of these people, well, Tim is still staying with Dick Grayson with Nightwing. So at least you have him. I think I know the reason why they had Tim Seeley do this series, where he does the majority. He does a good chunk of the writing for here, along with Scott Snyder and Jameson IV. Now, Tinnief is basically Scott Snyder's pupil. And I like the fact he's going to be getting his own regular Batman series. This will be the second one he's ever done, like as far as I can think of. And that's set to comics, but I'm looking forward to that. But despite that, this is still good. I give this book a 9.5 out of 10. And I highly recommend it to people who did not get a chance to read this awesome series. Yeah, this was an awesome series. I loved every minute of this series when I read it when it first came out. So, 9.5 out of 10. High recommendation. Alright, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode, which should be episode 253. And hopefully Doubleshot 185. Excuse me. Until then, I'll see you there. Bye.